Welcome to a new series I'm trying to start on this channel called Odd and Obscure, where I review games that have a significantly small amount of relevancy and yet have unique gameplay. With our premiere first episode, I'm going to be reviewing Salamander County Public Television, which is odd in the sense of something like a Warioware game mixed with a meme subreddit made completely out of stock photos, and is also obscure in that only around 250 people ever played through the first level at the time of my gameplay. It's also a pretty short game, only taking me 2 hours to beat without skipping any cutscenes. So let's get into the meat of this review. The game is pretty minimalistic, with a variety of mini-games you have to complete every in-game day, and every week has a theme. You're given a bronze, silver, or gold rank based on how well you do, but you only need bronze to progress to the next day. Why are you doing these odd tasks? For content, of course. Sounds like YouTube, if you ask me. Salamander County deserves only the best public broadcasting, and you're the professional thing-doer for SCP-TV. But unfortunately, just about everybody in Salamander County has disappeared, so ratings are plummeting. In between minigames, you sit in a chat room with your two co-workers, Geoff, who was casually retarded.
They took the mouse and didn't tell us what happened to everyone. And even worse, they didn't give me my burger.
And also is using pirated software. And Ember, who probably was a Discord kitten at one point in time. I mean, just look at the profile picture. Later, the story becomes even worse by introducing the appropriately named boss, Richardson, a mouse from one of the minigames, and a representative from Rambicule Corporation. More on them later. Let's talk about the minigames. The minigames range anywhere from enjoyable to I have no idea who designed this, but you're fired. Let's start with some of my personal favorites. In this minigame, you have to launch ornaments onto a Christmas tree by way of candy cane and tape. You have to spread the ornaments around evenly to maximize your point turnout. It's somewhat challenging because if you try to launch an ornament when it's sitting in the hook of the candy cane, which was what I tried at first, it won't go anywhere. So you have to roll the ornament down the body of the cane before tilting it up and launching the ornament. It's nice and simple. A bowling game to rival that of Wii Sports. Every time you hit a pin, it doubles itself. You get points for both hitting pins and having pins hit each other. It's satisfying and, more importantly, fun. I just wish there was an endless version of this, where there would be an infinite amount of pins until the game crashes. A true classic. You have to drop ingredients onto a burger and try to balance it as it gets taller. Although this has been done many times before, it fits well within the catalog of minigames here. Now you can live out your dreams by getting rid of pineapples on pizza by sucking them all up with a vacuum. Make sure not to suck up anything else, or you're just as bad as Papa John, who said a certain word that doesn't relate to pizza. Anyway, I enjoy the precision elements of this minigame, and it requires a certain patience to do as well. This one definitely brings Warioware to mind for me. In this game, you control a little dude and a clock. You have to keep him on the hands of the clock. Your main way of doing so is by jumping, but on top of that, you can actually control gravity, so you can jump higher or fall faster, depending on where you want to land. I actually didn't like this minigame at first, because of how sporadic the hands are, but eventually I came to like it. A test of reflexes, you have to recognize which of the two words on screen is beans. That's it, and I kinda like it.
That's beans.
That's beans.
That's beans.
That's beans.
That's beans. That's beans.
That's beans.
For obvious reasons, this minigame is on my good list. You play as a penguin with an infinitely growing neck and have to steer the head underwater past icebergs. It's the peak of absurdity and defines the tone of the game overall. I definitely was able to find some minigames that I enjoyed, but here are the ones that will probably have somebody fired. This is actually the first minigame that you're assigned, and I legitimately think it's the worst one to introduce the game. You control a banana and have to launch an orange at a certain distance. I was able to get the bare minimum of a bronze medal, and couldn't really find a trick to get any further. This one isn't bad in concept, but in practice it is a bit frustrating. You have to control the eraser like you would control a car, oddly enough, being able to move forward and backward relative to the arrow on the eraser, but also having to turn left and right manually. Not only are the controls somewhat restricted in this sense, but you also have to get every single pixel off of the whiteboard. That's not all. The bottom portion of the whiteboard is solid, but none of the other sides are. So if there's the smallest amount left to erase on the bottom, it will automatically be harder than if it were on any other part. But I'm still not done ripping this minigame apart. There are multiple backgrounds on the whiteboard, and some of them have white in them. So if there is a single spot that you miss that's on a white piece, more than likely you'll miss it and have to come back to it once the game helps you and flashes the parts you've missed. I really wanted to like this minigame, but it probably could have been much more enjoyable. This one is not as it seems. Instead of throwing a ball into the hoop, you have to put the hoop into motion, so that will put the ball through the net. I just didn't really understand this one. You get 3 different bars to adjust where the hoop will go, but I could never accurately predict where it would go on the first try. Once again, I just did the bare minimum to get a bronze and move on. Similarly, this game shares the same big problem as shooting hoops. All you have to do is inflate animal balloons to the desired size marked on the tape measure. But the challenge comes from not knowing how long to hold space down, especially on the first few tries. Not only that, once you let go of space, there's no going back. But generally speaking, the challenge in this minigame feels cheap, and you probably won't be getting it on the first try. This one is simply a matter of being boring. It's an underwater game of volleyball, and the player controls a fish. Once again, it's not a bad idea, but there are some aspects that could have been better. The computer that you go up against isn't exactly the smartest, plus the balloon has pretty janky physics, so it's easy to cheese the entire game. And probably to everybody's surprise, there is a story to connect some of the minigames together. Let's talk about it. The story reflects the extremely goofy tone of the minigames, in which, as previously mentioned, in between minigames you sit in a chat room with your 2 co-workers, Geoff, who was casually retarded, and also is using pirated software. And Ember, who probably was a Discord kitten at one point in time. I mean, just look at the profile picture. Later, the story becomes even worse by introducing the appropriately named boss, Richardson, a mouse from one of the minigames, and a representative from Rambicule Corporation. Okay, bear with me, I'm leaving out quite a bit here. But towards the end of the game, all the loosely connected ends come to a point, and it is revealed that Rambicule Corporation is actually an alien race that has been searching for a solution to make their short limbs longer. Rambicule then kidnapped the entirety of Salamander County overnight, using a giant vacuum cleaner because SCP-TV wasn't paying for their software. SCP-TV then discovered a mouse with infinitely growing limbs, and Rambicule found their opportunity to capture it for their experiments. This all leads to the final minigame, in which you have to prevent a vacuum from sucking up the mouse by inputting passwords on a TV remote. It is revealed that Geoff is the vacuum and has been brainwashed by Rambicule. He then tries to suck up the remote, but we are able to call the intergalactic police using the remote on him first. Then Richardson shows up and says that it's actually better that everyone in Salamander County disappeared because now he can use it as a tourist attraction. Of course, we refuse this and Rich starts sucking up the fabric of reality.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way,
We turn him off using the remote and the intergalactic police arrive and turn everything back to normal. Salamander County is saved. Salamander County Public Television was quite a find for me, given the small number of people who played it, let alone beat it or reviewed it. It is odd in many ways, like its story and characters, and even its numerous mini-games have their own quirks. The game is also almost fully made of stock images, audio, and video, although in some cases it utilizes these stock assets in unique ways. Such as in the main menu, there are bumpers for SCP-TV, and some of them are funny in a post-ironic way. Take a look. It is a short yet enjoyable experience, and sometimes I wish more games were out that replicated a format like this with just multiple mini-games that have you go for a high score. And on the exact same day I finished this script, the game has now been released on console, so more people can enjoy this absurd masterpiece. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the premiere of Autumn Obscure. I'll be back at some point, but until then, like and subscribe.